Breaking tonight with alarming polls about presidential leadership and questions about how committed our commander-in-chief is to this mission. The White House tonight is suggesting that our bombing campaign in Syria may go big. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. In just the last few hours, a senior White House official telling Fox News that if Syria's government tries to stop our efforts to go after the terror army ISIS, we may launch airstrikes on Syrian military installations. This is the American president who called the Iraq war, quote, dumb, who boasted about removing all U.S. troops from Iraq over his own general's recommendations, has now officially re-entered that battle, conducting the first, quote, offensive airstrikes against ISIS south of Baghdad. In the meantime, the so-called broad coalition that was supposed to help us bomb ISIS in Syria appears to so far be nothing of the sort. Secretary Kerry joining international leaders in France today who agree that something must be done to stop ISIS. Just who will contribute toward that something remains very much unclear. Despite the release of an ISIS video on Saturday showing yet another gruesome execution, this time of a British aid worker, even our closest ally, the UK, will not commit to joining us in airstrikes. We've got team coverage on this tonight with Ed Henry, Chris Stirewalt, and Seth Jones. We begin tonight with Ed Henry at the White House. Ed?
Good evening, Megyn. This was a direct threat just in the last few hours from a senior White House official to Bashar al-Assad, warning that if the Syrian president tries to stop and block the U.S. from bombing ISIS targets in the days and weeks ahead, that we know, this official said, where Assad has his command and control systems, and that the U.S., at the president's orders, will attack Assad's defense systems, potentially widening this conflict far beyond just going after ISIS. This tough talk tonight comes after the president, as you know, has been stung by criticism about his leadership over the weekend. The New York Times reporting he had a meeting last week with columnists, an off-the-record session where he admitted no mistakes in the run-up to dealing with ISIS over the strategy and whatnot, and, quote, had an edge of resentment about how his critics have been beating him up, about golfing, about handling of the crisis. Of course, all this happening, as you noted, as Secretary of State John Kerry has been in the Mideast for days now, trying to build this coalition to go to war. So far, there are no major Arab allies who have gone public and said that they will get behind these airstrikes, add planes or anything of their own of that like. White House officials saying, look, everyone be patient. They hope to unveil some of these commitments from allies next week in New York City at the UN meetings. But I pressed Josh Earnest today, where's the urgency? Listen. The president himself laid out the stakes last Wednesday night. So is this not a failure for Secretary Kerry to not get this coalition together?
And based on the very strong statements that we're seeing from public officials representing these other governments, there is a clear indication that this coalition is coming together very nicely.
Now, they hope here at the White House the president will be able to announce the details of that coalition next week when he spends 3 full days in New York City at these UN meetings. And they also noted, officials did here tonight, look, the president is scheduled tomorrow in Atlanta dealing with the Ebola crisis, Wednesday in Tampa, Florida, U.S. Central Command getting briefings on Iraq and Syria. One official saying, look, this shows sustained engagement by the commander-in-chief, his schedule showing he's on top of these crises. Why are they saying that? They realize he's taken a big hit in recent days for not appearing to be engaged and sustained over all of this. So they're trying to push back pretty hard tonight, Megyn.